Well, we live in a manic society, don't we? Where everything is speeding up all the time. In one of my books, Authentic Success, I start with, there's a Monty Python sketch, which is it's for part of the Silly Olympics. It's the 100 yards dash for people with a poor sense of direction.
Hello and welcome to the Mind, Body, Spirit Festival podcast. I am your host, Rach Cox, and I am thrilled to be interviewing some of the world's best known experts in spirituality and well-being. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. Hello and welcome, Robert Holden. Thank you so much for coming to see us and speak to us today.
Rach, thank you for having me.
Great. Well, a little bit about Robert. His innovative work on psychology and spirituality has been featured on the Oprah Winfrey Show, Good Morning America, a PBS special, Shift Happens, and in two major BBC TV documentaries on happiness. His latest project is Purpose Club, an online community for living a purpose-filled life. He is a New York Times best-selling author of 12 books, including Happiness Now, Shift Happens, and Life Loves You, which was co-written with Louise Hay. His recent book is Higher Purpose: How to Find More Inspiration, Meaning and Purpose in Your Life. Robert writes a weekly newsletter called Shift Happens. Goodness gracious me. You've nailed it, haven't you? You've just nailed life. So, end of podcast.
Well, I'm covering the big subjects, aren't I, Rach? I mean, they are the big subjects: happiness, love, purpose, success,
Yeah.
And I started early as well. I've never had a proper job, Rach.
Oh,
Never had a proper
fantastic.
job.
You're my kind
Yeah,
of guy. Great. I had a
yeah,
proper job. I used to be a lawyer. It was a very boring job. I love that you've never had a real job. That's ideal.
yeah. I just
It means you can
decided,
do real work.
I got interested from a very early age in life and how to live it. And I was catapulted into it really, Rach, because like a lot of us, so much of what happens to us comes from what happened to us early on. In
Hmm.
my case, it was an experience with my mum, who was experiencing depression most of her life. And then also my dad, who fought in World War II and experienced the effects of that. And he lived homeless on and off for the last 10 years of his life as well. So
Wow.
I, as a teenager, whilst I was trying to make it in the world as a punk rocker and a heavy metal guitarist, at the
I'm so
same
pleased for you.
time, I was trying to just understand a bit about life, and I started studying a bit of psychology, a bit of philosophy, none of which, by the way, happened at school. This was all outside of school, of course.
Right.
But I started to get interested in the big conversations, everything that we look at Mind, Body, and Spirit,
Hmm.
and even, early on in my 20s, knowing about Mind, Body, Spirit and going to Mind, Body, Spirit festivals was amazing. I mean, that was
Wow.
like
So you've
an
been part of it
eye-opener.
for a while.
Oh yeah, for sure, absolutely. The healing arts festivals that used to happen in London as well, and then learning about, Louise and
Mm.
Louise Hay and Wayne Dyer and Denise Lynn and everybody who's come to Mind Body Spirit events. Paul McKenna,
Hmm.
I mean, it's amazing. We find something like the Mind Body Spirit, I think, when we've experienced our dark night of the soul, when we're
Mm.
searching, when we're looking for something more meaningful, more purposeful. So it's always great to be part of an MBS, that's for sure.
Great. Well, I'm so glad that you feel so positively about it because I'm the same. I absolutely love it. It's
When was
such a
your
great
first
event.
MBS, Rach?
I think about 4 years ago, so fairly recent.
Okay, yeah.
Although that might have been COVID, so after COVID. I don't know where we are in terms of BC, you know.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
it seems like a blur now, doesn't it? But
Mm,
I'd heard about it for quite some time, and when I arrived, I felt really at home. I was like, yeah,
yeah,
these people are awesome. Lots
yeah.
of very intelligent, very emotionally intelligent, and evidence-based, exceptional humans with great teachings.
If you go to a Mind Body Spirit festival, you will be inspired. There will be a gift for you. there will be an encounter with somebody that will have an effect on you. They are sort of catalyst. They have a catalytic energy about them. So the reason why you think you're going might not be the reason you really are there. That often gets revealed to you, but that's part of the fun of it as well. But absolutely, you get introduced to people who are going to show you another way of looking at the world, perhaps another way of being in the world as well.
Yeah.
For sure. And no, I think many people would tell you that mind, body, spirits are life-changing events for sure.
Exactly. That's quite a lot of feedback that Josh, who runs the event now, has had. And it's really beautiful to hear that. It's lovely for all the exhibitors and people who teach and stuff
Yeah.
to hear and know, because it gives you that little bit more motivation. And it's like, yeah, it is working.
It is. It is for sure. And you can, as I say, it's often, you sign up and you may even think, even after you've signed up, oh, I'm a bit too busy. I can't. Should I really go? And just follow your yes, get there. And once you get there, the magic will happen for sure.
Exactly. Brilliant. What a great synopsis and introduction to your podcast. So you've told us a little bit already about how you've come into exploring your sort of higher purpose, or you're navigating your life. Is there anything else that you want to say about your journey there, and what inspired you to delve into the topic of perhaps higher purpose? And also, were you more inspired by the spiritual aspect or the psychological aspect?
Oh, that's good. Well, I know that, as a young man, I was pretty convinced that I didn't really want to have just a job or a career. Didn't feel like that was enough for me. And again, partly because I was informed by what was happening to my mum and dad, I was thinking, wait a minute, I think I need to work life out a bit more. And I don't want just a job or a career. I remember at the age of 21, I was working on the New York stock market, and I was offered an amazing job. I was offered a fortune for life, which I happily said yes to. But when I went back to my apartment that night, there's this inner voice that said, no, it's a nice offer, but don't accept it. And I argued with that inner voice for quite a while. I kept saying, hey, come on, let's rethink this. Surely I could do it for a few years. It'd be okay, But this inner voice kept saying, no, not this one, not this opportunity. There'll be more. And I think there was this sense of a feeling of an intuition, a sixth sense, an inner guidance that, I was aware of, and that I was trusting. I was following that. And then I started to get interested in psychology and philosophy. I did a degree in something called communications up at Birmingham, and Mind, Body, Spirit often had festivals in Birmingham.
That's right.
Back in the day. Yeah.
We still do.
And we still do, that's right. And so my course was a 3-year course called Communications, and it was a modular program where I was studying TV, radio, journalism, but also psychology, sociology, philosophy. And
wow, that is a bag.
That gave me, well, that was nice because it gave me a broad range of interests there. And from doing that degree program, that's what really helped me to choose a psychology that had a spiritual basis to it. So I knew that I didn't want to study only psychology. I understood that really psychology needs spirituality as much as spirituality needs psychology. So my work's really always been a blend of the two.
Great. Amazing.
Yeah.
I feel exactly the same. Otherwise it's a bit too science and a bit black and white. It's
and psychology is, it's we don't really change our thoughts by changing our thinking. We change our thoughts by changing our mind about ourselves. And that includes connecting more with our heart. It's connecting more with the soul, with the essence of who we are. And most of the great works that have inspired me have always had this blend of psychology and spirituality. And some of the great teachers, like Louise Hay, for example, were able to blend psychology and spirituality. Or A Course in Miracles. You know, I
Yeah.
came across A Course in Miracles when I was probably about 27. And of course, A Course in Miracles is this fantastic blend of psychology and spirituality as well. So that I found very, very helpful, as is the Enneagram. The Enneagram will be what I'll be talking about, particularly at Mind, Body, Spirit this year. The Enneagram is this wonderful blend, again, of psychology and spirituality. And I think when you've got the two working together, that's when you really, really can experience some really great lasting benefits.
Amazing. We will talk more about that in just a second. And now that I know how to say it, I will ask it properly. I did a little bit of homework with Robert before we started recording
Yeah.
to make sure I didn't mess it up. How do you define higher purpose, and why do you believe that, or why do you think it's essential for Mind, Body, Spirit listeners to discover their higher purpose?
Yeah. Well, I had a radio show with Hay House for 10 years called Shift Happens. It was a weekly radio show. And so I must have done at least 500 episodes. And the number one question that I got asked in all of that time was always, how do I find my purpose? Purpose was just top of the list for so many people. Wanting to live a purpose-centered life, I think, is vital to us for our mental health, for our emotional wellness, and for our spiritual growth. In fact, Rach, I remember when I was studying the degree program, we had one class on Carl Jung. Now, Carl Jung definitely lit me up. He was a perfect example of a psychologist who embraced spirituality, who embraced philosophy. Carl Jung said that for him, about a third of his cases were people who were essentially experiencing a sense of meaninglessness or purposelessness. And for him, he felt that that was the main crisis of our times. He said, humans cannot stand to live a meaningless life. Okay, so now back to you, Rach. When you were studying law, I'm going to imagine there was a time where it just lost all meaning for you. And
Yeah,
once
mainly in revenue law.
okay, and in revenue law, so once upon a time, I'm imagining it was meaningful, but then it wasn't meaningful. And at that point, something told you to move on.
Yeah. Well, I went against it to start with and went and worked a job, but then
Yeah.
because I didn't listen to it, I had a mental health breakdown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So why is purpose important to us? Because when we're following our purpose, we're not betraying ourselves.
Amazing. Yeah, which most of us go against for quite a significant amount of time. Did I just lose you?
I'm here. Yeah, I just went a little bit, we froze the screen, but it's okay.
Yeah. So yes, I'm just doing a frozen physical motion. I said that if we go against our purpose, it makes us sick, and most of us do go against our purpose for
Yeah.
quite some time.
So the reason for having a purpose is because having a purpose helps us to live an authentic life.
Amazing.
When you're on purpose, it means the world to you. You know, and when you're on purpose, you don't really care what everybody else thinks. You're doing what you're doing because it's true for you. Living your purpose is about following your joy rather than chasing happiness. Living your purpose is a difference between having a job and doing something meaningful, serving. Following your purpose, you know when you're following your purpose because you feel alive.
Is it similar to being in flow?
Yes, it's similar to that, indeed. Absolutely. Because when you're really living your purpose, you are involved in something bigger than you. And that's where the flow comes from. The flow is coming from something that's bigger than you. So one of the things that in higher purpose that I was writing about in this book was to say, firstly, you don't find your purpose, you recognize your purpose. You don't have to go looking for your purpose. Your purpose is everywhere you are because you are your purpose. you have to learn to recognize your purpose. And this is what I told everybody on the radio show. How do you recognize your purpose? You recognize your purpose by noticing when you feel most alive, when you feel like you're following your joy, when you are doing something that you love, when you're feeling authentic. So the key is to recognize the sense of being on purpose. But also, when you're on purpose, you know that you're connected to something bigger than you. And that's why, to your point, you're often going to feel like you're in flow. Doesn't necessarily mean it's easy. In fact, it might be the bravest thing you ever did. But you still feel like you're in flow. You're part of something bigger. And what I was trying to show in Higher Purpose is that for humans, especially at this point in our history, we have to find a way to connect our individual purpose with a higher purpose. And when you look at how other species work this, one of the examples I give is the bees. Bees have a specific purpose, the very specific thing they do in the hive. They also have a shared purpose, which is that they do something for the good of the whole hive. But they also have a universal purpose, which is that bees help to pollinate the whole planet. Bees literally make it possible for us to have coffee and marmalade on toast for breakfast.
All of the essentials.
Yeah, we couldn't do it without the bees. Humans, we get into trouble because we think, oh my God, I've got my own unique purpose and it's only mine, and it isn't. Your purpose is a unique expression of a shared purpose and of a bigger purpose. And that's why I call it higher purpose, because the purpose of having a purpose is to plug you into inspiration. Basically, that's the key. Living an inspired life, Rach.
Amazing. Well, that is dramatically different to going against it, which I definitely felt when I was lawyering around the place.
Yeah. When we go against our purpose, it's we will get feedback, and we can.
That's one way of putting it.
Yeah.
I had a mental health breakdown. That's a significant bit of feedback.
That's it. We override it. We override the small messages, and then we get the big messages.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. And then you have to rediscover your purpose from the ashes. You
do. That is absolutely true. And then in a way, that is also then we begin to see, oh, wow, that what we might call a mental health breakdown, that's not so much an illness. That is literally feedback showing us that we're not broken. It's that we might be off track, but we're not broken. And the work is to come back on track. And that's the work.
It is.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. So something actually quite linked to mental health breakdowns and things is in today's sort of fast-paced lifestyle, which is quite often chaotic. How can we navigate that to stay inspired and connected to our purpose, and try to avoid distractions or navigate the distractions and stress?
Yeah. Well, we live in a manic society, don't we?
Yeah.
Where everything is speeding up all the time. In one of my books, Authentic Success, I start with there's a Monty Python sketch, which is it's for part of the Silly Olympics. It's the 100 yards dash for people with a poor sense of direction, and that's our life. The gun goes off, and these runners, they're all like on the starting line. They're really agitated. They just want to run really, really fast, and they start running. But because it is the 100 yards dash for people with a poor sense of direction, they run off the track immediately. John Cleese goes somewhere. Michael Palin goes somewhere. Eric Idle goes somewhere. They all run off in different directions, and that is our life. We live very, very fast. And actually, when we lack a sense of direction, we tend to run even faster. Anxiety. So what do? We stop. We have to stop. Something, and there's two types of stopping, and I write about the two types of stopping in Higher Purpose. One stop is called a voluntary stop, or the other stop is called an involuntary stop. And hands up who's done an involuntary stop in their life.
So many of them.
Yeah, exactly. Stopping is a spiritual practice. Yeah. At some point you have to stop. And one of the times when I had to stop, I was 35. I was absolutely manic, busy, hyperactive, doing very well in the world's eyes. Um, but the pace of my life was fast. And I remember one day I got a little tweak in my lower back, which I ignored. So I got a bit of feedback, which I ignored. That tweak in my back turned into a bit of a sting, like a bee sting. And I
Oi.
ignored that, kept going because I just was too busy. There was no time in my schedule to go and visit a doctor. And then one day after a lecture, my back seized up and I just couldn't move. And it turned out I had a double slip disc, prolapse disc, two
Oh
discs
no.
gone. So I had to stop. I was forced to stop. That's an involuntary stop. I was
Mm.
issued with a walking stick, and
Wow,
I
at
had,
35.
yeah, and I had 6 months with my walking stick, and I had to stop. I had to slow down. It was terrible. It was frustrating. It was irritating. I was very upset, and it was transformative
Mm.
because when you stop, stopping, if you handle it right, is a spiritual practice. Just
Yeah.
like a breakdown is a spiritual opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Combustion
Yes.
of greatness
Ye-
happens.
a combustion of greatness is a great phrase. I love that. And
I just made it
and
up for you, Robert. You can have
good.
it.
No, well, thank you. I'll share it with you because going to a mind body spirit festival, for example, that would be stopping. That's called a voluntary
Mm.
stop. It's a sabbatical, it's a retreat, it's a pilgrimage. You're taking a moment to stop what you normally do. And in stopping, you create an opportunity for a new beginning. You create an opportunity for a new story. You create an opportunity for a miracle, an adventure, something new. So stopping is the great spiritual practice of our times, but we live in a non-stop society, manic, busy,
Mm.
hyperactive, and so the great work is to be able to stop for sure.
Would you say that slowing down is a form of stopping? I know it's
Yes,
defined differently
yes,
in terms of language, but
yeah,
because some people might go, well, I can't stop. That
yeah,
sounds
that's right.
mental.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah. Like, oh,
Okay.
yeah, you're right.
I'll just do that freeze like we did
Yeah,
earlier.
what? Exactly. Yeah, you can't do that. You can slow down, and slowing down is absolutely right. Yeah, it is absolutely right. But stopping can also be. It could be as simple as I'm going to stop complaining about my life. Yeah, I'm going to stop complaining about them. I'm going to
Mm.
stop complaining about this job. I'm going to stop complaining about the economy. Yeah, I'm going to stop, telling the story that I'm telling. And I'm going to see if I can be open and receptive to a new type of story. How do I do
Mm.
that? I go to a mind body spirit event and start
I
to
was
tell
going
me
to
a
say, is
story.
the second component being open? So once you've stopped,
Yeah.
because some people might say, well, that's, stopping is great, but how do I let other things in is just,
Yeah, well said, Rach. I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? Is why do we stop really? We stop so as to create a space in our schedule, a space in our heart, a space in our mind for something new. Once we slow down or stop, we're not on repeat in the same way. And
Mhm.
that's the key really is that
Mm.
we're not repeating ourselves anymore. Now, it's disorientating, it's uncomfortable, it's difficult, it's an act of faith. And yet when we do it, it always, that space is a bit like a womb where something gets birthed. And it might be
Mm.
an idea, it might be a perception, it might be that we pick up a book that we would not have had time to read before.
Mhm.
Something new comes into our awareness, and because of that, we've made room at the inn. We've made some room for the birth of something. And that's why anytime we come out of our routine, out of our habit, that's when we're going to be able to, I think, make some sort of a breakthrough or make some sort of a change for the better.
Amazing.
Mm.
Oh. This is good stuff, isn't it, Robert? So glad that you're here. So
Can I
you're
give you
bringing
another stopping? Another stopping
yeah.
would be to stop chasing happiness. The biggest cause of unhappiness on the planet is the pursuit of happiness. And
Yes.
that was, for many years I ran a project called the Happiness Project, which you referred to in the beginning there, those
Yeah.
documentaries. And in fact, I'm pretty sure that's when I would have first gone to teach at Mind, Body, Spirit events, would be through the Happiness Project. And I
Right.
set the Happiness Project up on the National Health Service in around about 1994, so 30
Okay.
years ago this year.
Mm.
And that work was very much about helping people to stop pursuing happiness and to start following their joy. So the
Wow.
pursuit of happiness is always means you're always chasing something outside of yourself. But following your joy is always about listening to that inner compass, to that inner guide, and doing the thing that you most want to do. Following your joy is tricky though, because if you're going to follow your joy, you've got to do another stop, which is you've got to stop trying to be normal. Now,
That is easy, Robert. If you are a rainbow unicorn nut job such as myself, no problem. Tick that
no
box, no
problem.
problem.
And we take inspiration from you, Rachel, because we all need a stop being normal coach in our lives, because we've all tried it. And for some of us, it was the worst 2 minutes of our life.
Exactly. It really was.
For others, it was 2 decades of trying. We've all tried to be normal and it doesn't work. And we were never meant to be normal because normal's not good enough on this planet anyway. If normal was great, we'd all do it, but it's
Yeah.
not good enough on this planet. And ultimately, if you're going to follow your joy, you've got to stop trying to be so normal. Just give in to being a little bit strange, a bit quirky, a bit eccentric. Do you know, in the 10 years of running the Happiness Project full time, we looked at lots and lots of research as to predictors of happiness. And I remember one piece of research noticed that people who described themselves as being consistently more happy than others had one thing in common, which is they all ticked the box that said, I am a bit eccentric.
I just
And
lost you
I
then,
thought that was
Robert. Tell me again what it was that was
yeah,
consistent, and we'll edit
yeah.
this back.
Yeah. Okay. So the one thing that all of these people had in common in this one particular piece of research was they'd all ticked the box which said, I'm a little bit eccentric. And
Ah,
eccentricity is absolutely one of the great correlators with happiness. Why? Because if you're being eccentric, you're not trying to be normal and you're being authentic.
wow. So 0 F's given is kind of a thing. Yeah, great. Okay. Well, that is good news because, people do like to gaslight themselves out of their own happiness and out of their own strangeness, don't they?
Yeah. And our work is to embrace it. Absolutely.
Great.
Yeah.
Oh,
Embrace
this
it
is
all.
all such good news, Robert, that you're
It
bringing
is
me.
good news. This is the Good News Podcast coming to you.
Oh, good. Excellent. Well, I'm glad to say that you will be coming to Mind Body Spirit Festival with your workshop on
Yeah.
Saturday, the 25th of May at 10:30 in the morning.
Oh,
Would
yeah.
you like to tell us a little bit about it?
Well, look, we are going to talk about purpose for sure.
Hmm.
And I think that for all of us, I think we are in one way or another, our work right now is to help create a climate change from fear to love. We're all involved in the same purpose. We're all doing it in our own way. That is the great work. And in this particular workshop, I'm going to be sharing a model called the Enneagram. And the Enneagram is a self-awareness tool that is 2,500 years old.
Wow.
So it's the oldest tool that we have, essentially, I think, when it comes to self-awareness, or at least one of them. It combines the wonderful philosophy of Plato, Aristotle, Pythagoras, the desert fathers and desert mothers of Egypt, the Kabbalah, Sufism, the Jesuits. It's got this extraordinary history, Rach, where it takes us through the centuries. It's a paperless trail, really. And the Enneagram was brought over to the West by Mr. Gurdjieff. And Mr. Gurdjieff introduced the Enneagram to a gentleman called Mr. Uspensky, who was like the Indiana Jones of his day, where he was searching for the miraculous. And he wrote a book, indeed, called In Search of the Miraculous. Together, the two of them basically brought the Enneagram over to the West. And today, the Enneagram, having flown under the radar for many, many centuries, is now the fastest growing self-awareness tool that we have in the West, which is super exciting. And I've taught the Enneagram for roughly 20 years. So
Wow.
It's something, I've done a lot of work with the Enneagram. The Enneagram is based on 9 personality types. And what I will do in my workshop is take you through the 9 personality types. And by doing that, we will focus on 9 soul meditations for living your higher purpose. But I'll also show you might already know your Enneagram type. And if you do, great. Then this will be a great help to you. But if you don't know about the Enneagram yet, then this is a great class to come to, because I'm going to be telling you about the 9 types and just giving you a really friendly introduction to the Enneagram and everything that it's about. So that will be the work. In my book, Higher Purpose, there's a chapter on the 9 types and how they relate to higher purpose. It's a chapter called the Enneagram chapter. How cool is that?
That is
really
great.
Easy and obvious. You know
Straight
where
in.
it is.
I like
in.
logical things. Thank you.
Yeah. It's so. I remember my editor saying, "Do you want to give it another title, Robert? That chapter, Enneagram
No.
chapter." And I said, "No.
Ronsil does what it says on the tin.
Exactly. It says exactly. So look, it'll be purpose, and we're using the Enneagram as this wonderful lens to look at purpose 9 times. So come along and learn all about your purpose. And I think you'll find it hopefully really, really interesting and exciting. I've taught the Enneagram and purpose all over the world at Assisi with St. Francis in London and New York and everywhere. I've done work with all sorts of organizations, Virgin, Unilever, Hay House, IBM, all on purpose and the Enneagram. So using the Enneagram to help people really get clear on their purpose. It's a beautiful tool. And if you don't know about it, you're going to know about it, because honestly, it is literally millions of people are now using it every day, especially in the West. And it's just going to get more and more popular.
That's amazing. I might be asking a naughty question here, but I'm going to ask it anyway. What's the worst one?
Yeah. It's your type, Rach.
I know. It's got to be.
Yeah. Yeah, it's got to be.
It's got to be.
It's not the worst. It wouldn't be the worst, but it would be the one that has a reputation for being a rebel and for being naughty.
Yeah. I'm almost concerned to find out what mine is and what other people / world dictators have my personality type.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Do you know what the Enneagram, there are 9 types, but I will tell you this, what I love about the Enneagram. The Enneagram is saying that you are untypable. So it starts there. So it looks like we're being typed, but actually the number, what we start with is that the soul, the essence of who you are, is totally untypable. And it must be true, because if you think about it, how much do we really know about ourselves yet? We're a mystery to ourselves. And if the soul is as infinite and as eternal as the philosophers tell us that the soul is, then we can't type ourselves. The number that you arrive at is really a number for your path of growth. So it's a journey of growth. That's what you're really going for. Right. And the Enneagram is trying to help you be authentic 9 times. in 9 ways. So that's essentially the work.
Okay.
Type 1, for example, is called the perfectionist. And the perfectionist is normally somebody who's trying to be good, who's trying to get life right, who's trying to make the world a better place. And they're trying to make themselves into a more perfect person. And yet the Enneagram would teach you you were already perfectly made. You don't
Mm.
need to try so hard to be good, to get things right, or even to make the world a better place. The world is already a better place because you're here. So that's type
Mm.
1.
That's
Type
amazing.
2 is called the helper. So the helper is the person that really experiences a sense of purpose and meaning by helping, giving, caring. And the Enneagram is here to say, yes, that is partly your work, but also the helper needs help too.
Mm.
And the helper needs to learn how to receive and to be open and receptive to being loved and supported and guided by life. So this is a way in which the Enneagram helps the helpers. Another type is type 3. This is me. Type 3 is the achiever. And the achiever is the person who has a sense that I'm here to do something with my life. And often begins by thinking, well, that must be that maybe that's a job or a career, but it normally turns into something more important than a job and a career. And it's
Mm.
normally more purpose led. So that gives you a clue as to my type and how he sort of moved into purpose. I'll give you one more. Type 4 is
Nice.
called the individualist. The individualist is the type most likely to believe in unicorns, by the way.
You see my unicorn behind me. I'm wearing them.
So the
Cool.
individualist is the one that basically is wary of getting lost in the crowd. I
Mm.
don't want to lose my true self in the crowd. I don't want to become so conditioned by life that I don't recognize myself in the mirror. I need to to well, W.B. Yeats put it beautifully. He said in one of his poems, I'm looking for the face I had before the world was made.
Mm.
I'm looking for my true self, my true nature. Fours sometimes get into trouble because they try to be unique, they force it. Whereas actually the Enneagram says you don't need to worry about trying to be unique. You already are unique. All you have to do is be authentic. And if you're
Hmm.
authentic, you'll end up being unique, for example. So there's 9 of these types, and there's so much wisdom here, Rach. It's so
Mm.
brilliant. And I'm a Hay House author, and I've been with Hay House for roughly about 17 years, and it would have been about probably 14 years ago or so, I introduced the Enneagram to the Hay House team and then to the Hay House authors. And, almost one by one, all of them would tell you that the Enneagram has so many gifts, so many lessons, so many gems. And it's
Mm.
just a great system to learn about. And in particular, it can really, really help you with living your purpose.
Amazing. It's
Mm.
incredibly interesting. I particularly like how many different cultures and histories and
Yeah.
peoples have formulated it.
Exactly.
Um,
What's a great joy is that it's not owned by anybody. It's
mm.
somehow like everybody claims it as being part of their tradition, but it's not owned by any one tradition. So there's a real mystery here, Rach. I mean, when I
Mm.
first came across it, I was so surprised that it even existed. I'd been studying psychology at that point for a long time, and I thought I'd come across most models, and I hadn't heard of this one at all. I didn't know how to pronounce it, by the way.
Okay.
Any gram, what gram,
Any gram,
any what?
that was years ago when I was a lawyer. I had any gram. I think I only had one type of personality then as well. Boring if I had any gram, let me tell you.
So this was like completely, a surprise to me. And actually, initially, I couldn't be bothered with it. I thought I'd done too many of these things by then. But this one got my attention, and I love the depth of it. I love the beauty of it. I love how it's not trying to fix you. I love how
Mm.
it's trying to help you be more of who you really are. And more than anything, it's helping you to make this shift from being ego driven to soul centered. So
Yeah.
it's just trying to help you find a better way to be the person you most want to be.
Amazing. Have you got any sort of stories of how you've seen this positively affect
Yeah.
someone?
One of the first groups that I worked with the Enneagram was Dove and the Real Beauty campaign. And Dove and the Real Beauty campaign really hit the headlines back in around 2004. There was an amazing YouTube campaign, and I actually became the coach to the president of Dove and also to the 3 vice presidents of Dove, and I introduced the whole of Dove to the Enneagram. And we looked at what beauty means to all 9 types. And this was really, really important because you see, Dove and the Real Beauty campaign was born from the awareness and from the research that 80% of women, when they read their favorite magazine, feel less beautiful after they've read it. We compare ourselves, we tell ourselves we need to be this shape, that shape, more like this, more like that. So in other words, we have a stereotypical view of beauty.
Yeah.
And Dove and the Real Beauty campaign was about changing our ideas about what real beauty is. And the Enneagram, with its 9 points, its 9 types, these 9 points are also lenses. They give you like a way of looking at beauty in a different way. So for example, at point 6, beauty is about courage. Beauty is about the courage to show up as who you really are, the courage to love. For example, there was an amazing YouTube film that Dove made during the pandemic, the lockdown, which was essentially a montage of frontline workers after a hard day of work at a hospital. And they were showing like beauty on the faces of these people who had been serving in the worst conditions possible. Like that's an example where the Enneagram's showing beauty isn't just how you look, beauty is courage. Beauty is honesty. Beauty is turning your wounds into wisdom. Beauty is accepting your wounds. Yeah. So with the Enneagram, what you're doing is it's helping you to look at life in a more layered, textured, robust way rather than just from one point of view. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was one of the first projects that I worked with, was Dove and the Real Beauty campaign.
That's amazing. And that's really incredible because it's initially quite a superficial type of company that is, they used to say, as we all did in advertising, it was a certain body type, a certain skin color, a certain age, and they really diversified. And I think that they do go on feeling a lot more, which is a massive impact because it's in everyone's face. It's on the TV. It's all over the news and social media. Sorry.
Exactly.
So that's massively impactful.
Yeah. And that was one of the first times I really worked with the Enneagram. And the Sylvia Lagnado was the president of Dove at the time. She was a type 1 on the Enneagram. And for her, purpose meant reforming the beauty industry.
Wow.
Making it more ethical.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and that was how we worked with the Enneagram there. So you can work with the Enneagram in so many ways once you get to know how it works, which is amazing. And it will always help you ultimately be more authentic. That's the great work of the Enneagram.
Amazing. That's really cool. I'm so glad. I'm actually going to just come to your workshop.
Great. Come and cause trouble, Rach.
I'll try not to. I mean, I visually do that anyway. My auntie always goes, "You look like a bloody firework. You do." Oh dear. What are you most looking forward to about Mind, Body, Spirit and your workshop?
Well, for example, right now I'm doing a 1-year program, which I've got about 18 people on that program right now. I do it once a year. And there's somebody on that program at the moment who I met at Mind, Body, Spirit last year.
How cool.
Yeah, and that's how it works. That is how it works, is that you meet people and you make connections. And a lot of people who I have met at Mind, Body, Spirit events over the years have come on board and done longer events with me, which is very, very cool. I also, I like to get there nice and early, and I love to have a wander around. I love to see what's up, what the newsstands are, and
Waft around
what's
the
happening.
crystals. Yeah.
Yes, always. Well,
They're
yeah,
so
I don't know.
big.
Wait a minute. I don't know if can you see? Look at that one.
Oh my goodness,
How
I
about
could get
that?
in that.
Yeah, you could.
That is
How
an
about that?
amethyst of
Yeah.
magnificent size.
It's
Jeepers
about
creepers.
it's about 4 feet tall, that one.
Do you know how
And
much it weighs?
oh my God, it took three enormous Polish builders to carry it up the stairs and put it here for me. When they put it down on the floor, I thought it was going to fall all the way
How many
back.
floors up are you?
Yeah, I'm up 3 floors. So I
I
just
hope.
imagined it was going to go down through all the floors. It's so heavy. You're right. It's really
Yeah.
heavy. Yeah. But yeah, it's a beautiful presence, that one. Really
Really,
lovely.
really lovely.
Mm.
Wow.
So the crystals, yeah, absolutely. I'll be popping into the Hay House stand, of course, because that's family.
Yeah.
And but then there's also always new exhibitors as well, which is also fun as well. So some familiar people and then some new ones. That's the fun of it, isn't it?
It is. Will you be around for most of the weekend, or are you there just for your
No,
day?
I literally will be only there this time for the Saturday. We are in Findhorn. In fact, we'll fly to Findhorn that evening. I do a
Ah,
lot of work up in Findhorn, which is a community that people who love mind, body, spirit tend to know about Findhorn. It's a
that's right.
great spiritual center, eco community. So I'll be up in Findhorn, but that's why I knew I had to do the Saturday morning this time to make sure
Right.
I could get there. Yeah.
And then off you go to
Yep.
another spiritual group of legends. Excellent. I like you. I
Really
like how
cool.
you roll, Robert. You know exactly
Thank
what you're
you.
doing, don't you?
Thanks, Rach. Thank you.
Oh dear.
When is Paul McKenna speaking? Is
I
he
actually don't
that
know.
weekend? I'll
I'm
always
gonna.
love listening to Paul.
He's just finished a massive tour, so I'm not
Yeah,
sure if
yeah,
he's going to be at the
yeah.
festival, but maybe he is.
I know. He was
I haven't
staring
spoken to
at
him yet.
me. He was staring at me from a poster in a bus stop recently. Very
Oh yeah,
unnerving. Very
he does that a
unnerving.
lot. He
I
gets
know.
around. He's quite stary, stalky.
I wrote to him immediately and told him how unnerved I was by the experience.
Would you
Yeah,
stop it?
yeah. I said,
Dear
Paul,
Mr. Paul McKenna,
I
stop
did.
looking at
Paul,
me.
stop staring at me.
Well, I will
Yeah,
pass that
he's
on
amazing.
when I speak to him.
No. Look, honestly, I hopefully he'll hear this and he'll send me a rude email.
I hope so too, for all
Mm,
of our sake,
for all
so
of
that the
us' sake.
karmic circle is
Yes,
complete.
yes, exactly, exactly.
Um, I think I'm going to ask one more question, if that's okay. And that's, how do you
Yeah,
see the concept of higher purpose evolving in a modern society, especially considering changing cultural and technological landscapes such as AI?
yeah, that's right. So this is a really interesting invitation, a crucial invitation that we have right now. AI is, we know it stands for artificial intelligence. Another word for artificial is not real,
Mm.
not real intelligence. One of my big projects was a project called Success Intelligence. And it was a company that I created, a boutique consultancy doing leadership work all over the world. I set it up in 2000 and ran it full time for about 16 years. And I called it Success Intelligence because I wanted to get involved in the conversation around intelligence. And what is, I think, vital right now is more than ever before, there will be the rise in artificial intelligence, and it will only go well for us if we also commit to a rise in emotional intelligence and spiritual intelligence.
Mm.
If we leave out the emotional intelligence and the spiritual intelligence, I'm afraid the AI thing is going to go really bad for all of us.
Okay.
But if we use AI as an invitation to cultivate greater emotional intelligence and greater spiritual intelligence, then it can work out very, very well.
Hmm.
But that for me is the ultimate invitation of AI, is that to keep pace with AI and to not create a Frankenstein, we
Yeah.
must cultivate our emotional intelligence. We must cultivate our spiritual intelligence. And higher purpose really is the expression of emotional intelligence, which is love, and spiritual intelligence, which is being true to ourselves. When we do that, then we can work with AI in a way that could be amazing and is amazing. In fact, only 2 weeks ago, I was at a conference for 1,000 cardiologists where essentially the conference was all about cardiology and AI, but my keynote was on the wisdom of the heart and how we bring more of the wisdom of the heart into cardiology and into the new developments that are happening within cardiology right now. So that's an example where, as I say, I think we need that balance, Rach. AI is going to grow and it will go well for us if we commit to emotional intelligence and spiritual intelligence along the way. It's the mind, body, spirit message. We need all three humming, absolutely humming, if AI is going to work for us.
And we might need a little bit of an emotional and spiritual revolution then, because the intelligence side is definitely very fashionable because it cuts corners for people, doesn't it? And so for people who like to cut corners in certain aspects, they're probably not that interested in developing themselves.
Well,
this is speaking from one.
Yeah, we mustn't become lazy. That's the point. It's got to be, that's right, it's got to serve rather than lead. And that's
like
the
the
key.
Ego, all of the same sort of concepts and
It's
the wisdom.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. Yeah.
To balance out the intelligence is absolute key.
Exactly right. Yeah, and that was the work with Success Intelligence in particular. It was, and actually, again, in Higher Purpose, there's a whole chapter on these intelligences and addressing this idea that we just have to step up, Rach. That's it. We can't.
Just me and you. Just me and you need to step up, and then it's all right.
We'll start with us. We'll start with us and see if anyone wants to join in.
Don't worry, everyone. We've got this. Nothing grandiose about it. Oh, good. Well, I'm glad we had this meeting. This podcast turned into a meeting where we save the world, Robert. Brilliant.
With the help of everyone else. Come on, we can do it.
Yeah, there's a lot of irony in what I'm saying. I don't think I could save an ant. Oh, dear. Excellent. Well, I'm just going to remind everyone where they can book their tickets to your workshop, which is called Finding Your Purpose, 9 Ways to Discover Your Soul's Calling at Mind, Body, Spirit. And the website is mindbodyspirit.co.uk/London, and you can find Robert's workshop there. And that is on the 25th of May, isn't it, at 10:30? So
looking forward to it.
I will see you there. I cannot wait to see you in person and say hello.
Thank you. Thank you so much. This was great fun. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was awesome. Thank you. And I will see you very soon.
Great. Look forward to it.
Great. Thanks a lot. Loads of love. Bye. Thank you for listening to the Mind, Body, Spirit Festival podcast. We would love to connect with you in real person at one of our epic events. Go to mindbodyspiritfestival.co.uk for tickets and information. I will see you there. Don't forget, you can also follow us on Instagram, MBS Wellbeing, for behind the scenes content, updates and offers. Stay cosmic, you beautiful soul.